Hi guys, Melissa here. Welcome back to my channel. I recorded this video a few months ago. You'll still see pumpkins in the background. And then I was kind of chickening out about sharing it. It's deeply personal, you guys, but it does include my testimony. But I feel like in order to share about Ursula, there's a lot of sort of supernatural kind of things in it, along with my story. And I think it's part of why we connected as friends. And it's like you kind of have to know my story to know her story. And then I can't just share a testimony without sharing personal things, because I feel like part of the testimony is the journey and all of the difficult things that I went through. And kind of like Jonah in the Bible, he kept running away from what God was asking him to do, and he ends up in the mouth of a whale so God could get his attention. And I don't want to get to that point. Oh, I was going to share something with you. Hold on one second. So God keeps telling me over and over, but I mean, it's more, instead of just a feeling, I'm like, then I keep doubting myself, thinking, oh, you know, I've lost my mind. People will think I'm nuts, crazy. She's covered. I mean, you've got to believe in God. You just have to, or else you're just gonna think I'm bonkers, mental. Like you're not gonna think I'm okay. Hopefully, you know, you won't judge me too harshly if you don't believe in God, because I seem crazy. I know I do. And even for people that are mildly religious, you know, I mean, I grew up in a Pentecostal church, so speaking in tongues, people falling down, healing, like it's just all the radical stuff. So that's always been my church life. So God is just radical to me. Yeah, so I in the video you're gonna see I'm uncomfortable. I don't want to share very deeply personal things. So if you could just be kind. It took a lot of courage and bravery for me just to share it. So if you could just be kind, don't leave mean comments, because if God ever asks you to be in this sort of a position, just understand how difficult it is. You don't have to agree with me. I respect your point of view, but just, you know, it was difficult enough to, you know, show you my cards, basically splay everything out for you. So just have compassion, if you would. I know it's a lot to take in. If you're just not in that same spiritual place, it's a lot. I completely understand. But God was then, because I was doubting myself, then God was, I mean, you know how you get the nudge in your, you know, the gut feeling, you just keep getting that nudge. And I just keep going, maybe it's just a feeling I'm having today. And then the next day I'm like, what am I thinking? Like, people are just, I'm going to lose every subscriber I have. Not that it was ever about that, but I still want to share wax and makeup and all the artsy things and everything, and books. I mean, I still want to share all that stuff. So hopefully you'll just be like, oh, okay, well, and then just, you know, forget about it if it's not meant to resonate with you, and just pretend I never said any of it, okay? But I know it's out there. Someone out there needs to hear this message. God won't leave me alone about it. You know, and I've been through worse. You'll hear my story. I've been through worse. And if I could deal with that, I can deal with sharing my soul to who knows who out there in YouTube land. But hopefully the right person that needs this, I'm sure they will come across this, and this is meant for you. Even if it's just one person, that makes it all worthwhile. But again, I just keep doubting myself and going back and forth. Then I was starting to watch programs, And they were starting to talk about this, and I was like, God, like, I'm hearing you, but I'm still doubting myself. Am I hearing you because I think I should, or am I really hearing you pressing me about this? Rosie, stop. And then, lo and behold, I get a fortune cookie. And on the fortune cookie, it says, today your words have the power to inspire. You can't make this stuff up, you guys. And God will talk to you however strange and unusual way God needs to talk to you. He will talk to you. So don't discredit fortune cookies, because I'm like, I'm hearing you. Yeah, I don't want to be Jonah. I really don't. You don't have to put me in the mouth of a whale. I understand. So I was going to redo the video, and I'm like, let's just add to it, because there's some things that, I mean, I'm nervous and emotional, and I forgot about some details that are important. So stay tuned. I'm going to try to splice them in at least at the end. If not, probably at the end. All right, guys. So stay tuned for the video. Hi guys, Melissa here. Welcome back to my channel. And I feel like I'm at a place now, Tater might come in the video, but where I need to do this video. I want to share with everyone Ursula's story. And in order to do that, I feel like I have to share my story. And doing that makes things make sense. Otherwise, it doesn't really make sense, I feel like. Because one of the things that we share is like a, I don't know what you call it, like supernatural events, kind of a history or gifts or that kind of a thing. So, I'm an only child. I technically have a half sister. But I didn't really know her till after I was 21, and even then it's just, she's someone I see every once in a while. I don't have any sort of a relationship. So I was adopted by my dad. Like, I have a birth father. And then I have an adopted dad. So when I was 2.5, my mom got with my adopted dad. So he adopted me. I actually have a recollection of that memory. I have a song, but I think it's kind of distracting me more than helping me. So I'm going to take it out of my ear for a minute. I can always put it back in if I feel I need that. I feel like I can't think straight. So this will be a long video. I'll do Ursula's story in a part 2. But here's mine. So be prepared. It's probably going to be like 2 hours. But yeah, so I was born in 74. So, I mean, my mom was coming out of the 60s and all of that. Okay, so I don't even know where to start. Okay, so my grandparents on my mom, my maternal grandparents, side, I don't know how to, maternal. They are Pentecostal, you know, preacher and wife. So my mom grew up Pentecostal PK kid. Preacher's kid. And so she's always been a little bit rebellious, but yet always very drawn to God, church, all of that. So, but I don't know, she got with my birth father and he was not in a great place. Drugs, all that stuff. My mom would actually joke about how she would tell my poor grandma that she was gonna name me Mary Jane, which I think is named after pot. I don't know. I'm not a drug user, so I don't know. I guess my grandma didn't think that was very funny, but that's my mom. Yeah, so my mom is a narcissist. It took me a while to understand and realize that. So my mom blackmailed my birth father and said that, you know, she would turn him in for drugs if he didn't sign off rights to me. So she blackmailed him into signing off rights for me so that I'd have to ask her, but we don't talk right now. Haven't for 6 years, and I'm better off for that. So I don't care enough to know, I guess, but yeah, so my dad signed off not wanting to go to jail for drugs. But yeah, that's my mom, very manipulative, and I don't know if he was visiting me in the meantime, or if he just wasn't enough and she wanted to be with my dad. I don't know. But that ended up the way it ended up. Now, I don't have any recollection of anything before I was 2.5. My first memory was 2.5 when I was adopted. And my grandma and I were at the courthouse. And I remember the judge. I remember which judge did the adoption. And I just remember being at the vending machine because I wanted candy, and I was with my grandma. And I asked my mom if that happened or if it was a dream, and she said, no, that actually happened. So that's my first memory. My second memory is when I was 3. And I'll never forget this ever because it's just very vivid in my memory of when I was saved. I have never not believed in God. Like, I came like out of the womb believing in God. God has always been my best friend. I guess you could equate it to when you're young and kind of like an imaginary friend. Like, to me, Jesus was always by my side. Like, and if I talked, I was talking to him. Like, I've never not known God in that way. I don't know really how to think of God as like some scary, authoritative, you know, being in the sky that is here to just cast hellfire and brimstone upon you. So I guess I've never known God that way. So it's weird for me when people don't think of him as like sitting right here next to you. It's not like, I don't know how to explain that. I've just always had a personal relationship with God, and it's been very close. I have an INFJ personality type. It's kind of rare. And it comes with a great deal of empathy, so I'm an empath. I tend to feel things like a roller coaster, like extremely, happy about something, or, extremely nervous about something. Like, I don't just kind of half feel things. I mean, I'm just like this gigantic emotion. So like if I'm feeling something for someone, I can cry. Like, it's why I cry constantly. When I was a little girl, my mom got to where she didn't want me to watch Frosty the Snowman anymore, because every time he would melt, I would break down bawling. And even when Dale and I got together, like, I would hear the song Frosty the Snowman, and I would start crying. And I know he comes back, and I would watch it every year, but I couldn't not cry. And I guess my mom took me to the movie theater to watch, I remember, watch The Fox and the Hound, Disney's Fox and the Hound. And I cried and I cried. I took my daughter to see the movie Spirit. And cry. My daughter was looking at me like, why are you crying? I'm like, because it's just happy. And it's almost always music that gets me even more emotional than I normally would. So my kids always make fun of me. It's fine. My daughter cries at things too. Like, I don't know why that was so funny, but it's fine. It's just who I am. And yeah, she took me to the theater to watch my mom, The Jungle Book. And I laughed and I laughed and I laughed, and I guess like I was making a scene because I was laughing so loud. And I remember watching the movie. I don't remember being loud or people around me. I just remember being so submersed in the story, I guess. I remember laughing. Yeah, so I don't know. But my mom was strange. She also wouldn't let me watch Scooby-Doo. I would sneak and watch it anyway. But she didn't want me to watch Scooby-Doo or Casper the Ghost because it had ghosts, and that was like, not Christian enough. I don't know. I've never had that issue where things like I can separate things, compartmentalize, I guess. That hair in the back is bothering me, that is standing out. So I can compartmentalize things, and that doesn't mess up my spiritual walk, or I don't know, things like that don't trip me up. So my second memory, being saved. So I remember just my mom and I were at church that night. And if you know, you know. Like, I know there's a new version with like Kirk Cameron, but like I said, I was born in 74, so I was like 3, 4. My mom thinks 3 or 4. because I asked her about it, and she's like, yeah. Like, I said, how old was I? And she was like, she just thought it was weird that I remembered that far back. And I guess it is, but this was just a significant moment in my life, I guess. And so what was it, late 70s? And it was a church movie that you had to go to church to see. Anybody who's Assemblies of God Pentecostal, I'm sure you know this movie. It was A Thief in the Night. And I remember the people getting like taken in the rapture. I'm not sure that this was necessarily appropriate, especially to someone as sensitive as I've always been. I'll try to remember to tell you, because I don't want to keep coming back and forth, but that's how my brain works. I think I have an ADD brain. So it just kind of jumps thoughts back and forth, so bear with me. So I remember the rapture, and that was scary. And then I remember this mom and her little boy, and the little boy had a red balloon. I don't know the significance in that. I'm sure it has some significance. But I remember, you know, they had to not get the mark of the beast. And if you're familiar, I'm sorry to start out my video like this if you don't know all of that. You had to not get the mark of the beast, because that meant that you would go to hell and you would be with Satan. Because once you got the mark of the beast, you couldn't be with God. That was your last chance, was during the rapture, or after the rapture was, you know, to not get the mark of the beast. And then, unfortunately, they had guillotines. And, I mean, Revelation talks about it, whether it's a vision or not, whether it's real or apocalyptic text. I don't really know. It's, I guess, up for interpretation. I kind of think it's real, but again, I get a little bit mixed up with church doctrine, of Pentecostal church doctrine. Revelation's difficult. I mean, there's a timeline, but I mean, and they read that in church, but I've always grown up, I'll tell you in a minute, with that whole pre-trib theology. It doesn't matter what you believe, pre, mid, or post, doesn't matter. So that's always debatable anyway. And I remember that they had to, I think they were in, that part's kind of fuzzy, like the part of the movie, like I don't remember if they were in jail. I kind of think they were, like they were jailed, and it was like either you take the mark of the beast and you can get out, or you don't and you are decapitated at the guillotine. And so, you know, the mom and the kid chose God and were decapitated with the guillotine. I remember his little red balloon flying up. And I remember that being like the scariest thing to me, and feeling like, well, I think I had a very old soul. I was born an old soul. I mean, I don't know if it's normal for little kids to think this way, but I remember thinking, I've never officially been saved. Like, I believe in God, he's my best friend, but I've never officially been saved, and maybe I should make it official just to make sure that I go up in the rapture. So I remember asking my mom if I could, because they always do, which is one thing I hate at church. I always hate, and it's my personality type. It's also part of narcissistic abuse that I've come to realize later, that you know, you don't like people staring at you. You feel uncomfortable when you're talking about yourself, which is why I probably won't make a ton of eye contact with the camera. You just feel awkward and out of place and all of that, and self-conscious, which is why I play with my hair a lot. Yeah, so I remember asking, I hate the altar calls. I do. I hate feeling like everybody's staring at me, going up, feeling embarrassed, and I hate that. I just hate that. I don't miss that. But so we went up. My mom, I asked her to go with me, and because she didn't nurture that part of me that was always shy. She didn't even try to understand, because she wasn't built that way, and she kind of conditioned me to be that way. Now that I've later realized, yeah, she didn't nurture that part of me, but she did go up with me that time, because I think it, made her feel good or whatever, that I was going up and asking to be saved, and I would still tater-tot. And speaking of which, I don't know where he went. Oh, he's right there under the chair. And so I got saved, and I remember that moment, and I remember that it was so important to me. And I remember feeling like, okay, God, like, please make sure that I always, it was important to me. I feel like I've run from end times, the apocalypse, the rapture, all that stuff my entire life, because I've always been afraid of it. And my grandpa, being a Pentecostal preacher, would always, God's coming back in my lifetime if the Lord wills and tarries. My cousin Rich can tell you too. He'd scare the heebie-jeebies out of you, because you'd think your life was over. Any minute now, and you had to hurry if you had any kind of life, because you were scared that God was going to come back and you weren't going to get to live your life, which is why I made a lot of stupid mistakes in my life. But yeah, so that's my second memory. And I remember my mom, she would, these just were not appropriate things to be watching with me, especially as she was worried about Scooby-Doo and Casper the Ghost, which is stupid. They were cartoons, and they didn't scare me or bother me, but she would watch Alfred Hitchcock. It was fine if I watched that. She would watch Twilight Zone. I hate those to this day, because they were frightening and terrifying. I hated everything about them. Which is weird that I would grow up to read Stephen King. And I've only just begun. Take note. But yeah, and she watched this is why I hate aliens. Hate them. They're terrifying to me. And I've always kind of believed that they weren't real, and so that gave me some sense of security until recently, when the government decides to release, UFO or whatever UAP or whatever they call them now, videos of unidentified flight. And I'm just like, don't tell me this is real, because then it becomes terrifying again to me. But she watched this show. It was a mini series on TV. I want to see it was ABC, CBS, one of those, NBC, probably ABC. And it was called V. And there were these people that would, I guess, shapeshift into reptiles, and they would eat people, and it was horrifying. I think it was in the early 80s. I was older, but still, that was horrifying to me. Anyways, so she would watch all kinds of stupid stuff, and that was okay, but God forbid I watch Scooby-Doo or go trick-or-treat. I did trick-or-treat for a while, and then I went to the Christian school, starting in 3rd grade. And then it was, wasn't a Christian thing to do is trick-or-treat, and all kids want is candy and dress up, and so I went a while without trick-or-treating, because I don't know. I don't get hung up on the religious stuff, because God is my God, and he's always been my God, and he will always be everything he's always been to me. I feel, this is how I put it, I guess, God is my beloved and I am his. Like the story in Ruth, I don't think about a human being like that. I think about God being my beloved. And I feel like we have this close relationship, and I'll get to it, but later in my life when I was trying to escape my reality, I guess. I know there's certain trigger words on, which this whole video might be a trigger to someone that's been through abusive situations, so I apologize for that. Trigger warning. So I know not to use certain words on YouTube, but which I might not even post this video, you guys, or I might post it, chicken out, and make it private. I don't know. We'll see. But I feel like I'm supposed to do this, so I have some time and I'm gonna do this now. My mom, I remember her being, I guess, a good mom in some ways and not a good mom in other ways. Sometimes I wonder retrospectively if she didn't have like Munchausen's, I was constantly sickly as a child. I don't think it's necessarily because she didn't nurse me and she bottle fed me, but she would tell these stories, like she would feed me like fish sticks ground up, and I would projectile toss them. And it's not something I do now, and I'm like, why did I do that? Like, I don't know, there's certain things that I guess I look back on the older I get and I question. I think it gave her sympathy when I was sickly all the time, but yet as an adult I'm not the same sickly that I was when I was little. It's weird to me. I remember my mom had like the worst temper ever, and for the longest time I kind of thought she was bipolar. Because when she would snap, like she would smash furniture. She was almost borderline abusive to my dad. I mean, you began to get into fear of taking her off. So I remember this one time, okay, here's a story. Lots of them are coming to me at the moment, so I just gotta pick one. I remember her wanting, I collected stuffed animals. I've always been drawn to animals. There's always this unconditional love, this innocence about animals. And growing up, I couldn't have a cat. My mom despised cats. Maybe that's why I have 9 of them now. I don't know. Other than I just know that I can't stop rescuing them. They need rescued. I mean, I'm trying to push, to not save everyone. I can't. It's impossible. I think we have enough where these to make these guys happy without them causing conflict between their symbiosis here in the house. But you get too many and then they're just gonna fight. I'm kind of amazed that it works out as well as it does. as many as we have. But I remember, so I could have dogs, and I had a couple birds, and I had some fish. But I remember I collected stuffed animals, and I remember I had too many to her. And she forced me to get rid of some of them. That's normal, parents do that. Because I just always wanted a stuffed animal. And to me, they were like, I guess because I'm shy, I'm introverted. As an only child, I would play with my toys and my stuffed animals. Like I formed this bond with my stuffed animals. Like they were real in my mind, I guess. Like they had feelings and things. So I remember crying and crying because I was so scared that they were gonna think that I didn't love them anymore, and I did, and it tore me apart that I had to, like, I could get emotional now, that I had to pick between them. Silly, like, but that's how sensitive and emotional, empathetic, I guess, I am. So that was hard. I had some, to tell you kind of what kind of person my mom was. I had some birds and I had some fish when I was little. And I remember being so happy, like my dad and I were happy. And I don't know if she just would get jealous of that relationship. She later told me as an adult, with like this straight face, like she had no emotion, almost like she was proud of herself, that when they would die, one flew out of the house. We didn't clip its wings, so it got out of the cage and flew out of the house. It was like a parakeet. But she would later tell me that they were dirty and no one was keeping it clean. Well, number one, help. Number two, I was how old? Like I was like kindergarten through, gosh, I think it was 6th grade when I moved to Warren. From Youngsville. So I mean, I didn't know what I was doing. Nobody taught me. It was before the internet when you could just Google how do I I don't know, she was just mad at my dad and I just happened to be in the way. I don't know. Like I was just, my feelings were just collateral damage to trying to get at my dad. I don't know, but she would tell me that she would pour bleach in the water, and that's why all the fish would end up dead. Didn't matter how I felt, didn't matter how I cried. She would do it to my birds if they started to lose feathers or whatever, get, I think, mites or whatever. Because I don't know what gives birds mites. Rosie doesn't get them, so I don't know if we just weren't, I can't remember. I don't know if we cleaned the water every day like we do with her, or what exactly, or changed the papers enough, or what exactly it was. But yeah, they would get mites or whatever, and then she would pour bleach in the water and kill them. And my feelings were just collateral damage. And I didn't know that when I was little, that she was poisoning my animals. Okay, guys, we had this dog. I'm not good with measurements. I hate math. It makes my brain hurt. So I can't even tell you, like my brain doesn't work that way. So I can't tell you how many feet. Like I see pictures in my head, so I can tell you like roughly looking at something. And so I would say from that side of that wall to this side, it wasn't a very big space. We had this, my animals weren't really loud. My dogs, we tried it a couple times. My my parents weren't capable of house training these dogs, and they would end up outside, or we get rid of them or whatever. So we had this dog, and it's sad because I remember rescuing him from, not rescuing, but these people were getting rid of him. I remember, and my mom claimed to love this dog, right? He was living in a house when we got him. Well, then we got him, and he lived outside. And they built this outdoor cage, and I look back at it now and I think how horrible of a deplorable situation that dog lived in. He didn't have a cage that was very big, and he was constantly in his feces because he didn't have that much room to go to the bathroom, and it's not like they were out there cleaning it all the time. I just look back at it and think, oh, like I would never do that to an animal as an adult. But his dog house, so there's a window to the basement, if you can imagine. You know how big your windows are. So it was like this double window into the basement. And there was glass, and then there was the platform, and I think then there would have been another window. Well, they took that first window out, so he had this cubby, and they built it up so that he had enough room to get in. His dog house was the window to the basement, so whenever I would go do laundry, I could see him and say hi to him or whatever. But in the winter, when it was freezing and snowing, and he was in this little place, he spent a lot, too much time in there. Like, I think that's cruel now that I look back. Like, that bothers me a little bit. Granted, I wasn't old enough to do anything about it, but I remember sometimes asking if he could come in, but then, you know, they'd be like, no, I don't want the house to smell. I don't want to put a bathroom in the house, blah, blah, blah. I just wanted a friend. I don't know. So yeah, that's my mom. And I remember this one time I was really little, and I remember her, it was summer, and I remember her getting after, I don't even know what I did. Maybe I got lippy, I don't know. But I remember her getting after me, and I was so mad at her that I went upstairs in my bedroom and I opened the window, or maybe it was already open. I just remember yelling out the window, because we lived on a main busy street, saying, help, help, and was trying to kill me. And she sat on the front porch. Yeah, I could be a stinker sometimes. A little defiant nature, I guess. She used to spank me. She used to make me go out in the yard and get my own switch that she could spank me with. She'd spank me and break a wooden spoon on my butt. Yeah, so it's not how I discipline my children. I mean, back in the day, sure, I spanked them, but not like that. I never made them go get a switch. I never broke a spoon on their butt. A wooden spoon, nonetheless. Yeah, so I remember her making me go to a birthday party, and I didn't know this kid. I just came home with this invitation. Like, I don't even remember the kid's face. It was a boy nonetheless. And I remember her feeling like I needed to go to this birthday party and socialize or whatever. I bawled the entire time because I didn't know this kid. I didn't want to be around this kid. Like, I never even talked to this kid. I don't want any part of this. And she forced me to go. She left me there crying. Like, it was emotionally traumatic for me. It was horrible. Like, that's something I'll never forget or forgive her for. So I remember in, like, one of my first friends was my dog, and she was a Brittany Spaniel. My dad brought her into the relationship, so I'd had her the whole time. And I mean, I have a picture, like, it was up here at the Day of the Dead. I have a friend there, but she's like my best friend, and I would spend hours in the yard with her. I loved her, and she was the sweetest dog ever. Somehow this dog got pregnant. I remember she had puppies. I remember that dog wouldn't let anyone near those puppies, but she let me. And I remember my dad couldn't get rid of them. I think he was trying to charge money for them, not actually give them away for free. I think that was part of my anger. But I think he couldn't, get rid of them, so he tied them to a tree and he shot them. I don't think, there's a part of me that will never forgive him for the events that occurred with this dog. And I know parents sometimes make mistakes that they regret, but he knew how much this dog meant to me. Like that's horrifying. Why would you do that? I don't know, maybe, I guess, like my ex, he doesn't want to pay the money to take them to the Humane Society. And I remember I would spend hours and hours with this dog. Like, I would lay on her belly and I would sing to the birds, and I would cry singing to the birds. You guys, I'm such a corn dog. But I would feel all these emotions. I'd be singing to the birds. And it's like the corniest little kid you've ever met in your life. We would look at the clouds, and like, I wanted her to sit on the swing with me, and that's the picture that my mom took. I remember picking her up, and she's too heavy for me. She's Brittany Spaniel, but that's kind of a small dog, in retrospect to other big dogs. And I, picked her up and put her in the porch swing, and we sat there together. I mean, I literally loved this dog. And my dad, and she had a bigger enclosure than this dog that we had that was sleeping in the basement window. She had like this big yard, and it was fenced in, and I used to go in there with her all the time. And I remember this one time I went missing. Here I climbed in the doghouse with her name is Brooke, and I crawled into the doghouse with her, and yeah, I fell asleep and took a nap. Well, my mom was calling, and the dog wouldn't get up because I was laying on her. She treated me like I was her puppy. And my mom looked and looked and looked and finally found me. Here I was napping on this dog in the doghouse. Yeah, so my dad decided she didn't have enough room, and he gave her away to a friend. I think the friend might have paid him money for her nonetheless. And she went up on the hill, and I remember being so heartbroken he took my friend away. Because the only other person I felt that close to was God. And I remember being devastated. I remember crying, and it didn't seem to matter. Like, you're doing what's best for her. Well, we were supposed to go visit her, and we went to visit her at these people's house, and she was kind of wild and crazy. And all it was she was so excited to see me. She was jumping up on me, and I wasn't used to her doing that. And I was like, she doesn't remember me. She doesn't know who I am. Like, and I was crying and upset. And, you know, and so, I mean, that's something she'd never done to me, was like being all rambunctious and climbing all over me and clawing me and scratching me and hurting me. But she was just so excited. And we had left, and it was a couple weeks later. She had chewed out of the wooden enclosure, and she was trying to leave, I think to come see me and to find me, and she had splinters in her stomach and died in a field nearby. Yeah. So there's that story. Yeah, it's like they didn't care. Yeah, so I mean, there were times that she was a good mom to me. Like, I had good memories, and but I think it's whenever it gave her attention, whenever she could show me around like a trophy. But as far as things like that, it didn't matter. I remember this one time I was taking too long, messing with my hair, because I liked long hair and I wanted a perm and make it curly. Because, you know, back then I didn't have mousse and product to put in my hair to bring out the curl. It was just frizzy. And she would brush it straight too, but it's always been fine. And, you know, anyways, I was taking too long getting ready for school, I think, and she made me get a haircut, and it was really short, and I was so undone, and I felt, she thought I looked beautiful. Did not. I was so ugly, and I hated myself so much, and as if I didn't before then, and the bird is covered. I most definitely had a, if you call it body dysmorphia. I had low self-esteem to begin with, but I've never seen myself well since. Like, that time, she's done that twice. This time happened to be, that I'm referring to, happened to be in high school. Well, I was going into 7th grade, and there was a boy in my class I was so in love with. And there was only 10 of us, and I was so mortified going to school that year. And that's when I would start wearing my hair in a barrette. And I wore my hair every day in a barrette for years. I didn't not wear my hair in a barrette, and I didn't know how to style my hair after that, because I just felt so ugly and unattractive and miserable. it wasn't until Dale and I were together, sadly, you guys, from 7th grade until I was like 33 when we got together, like in my 30s. Before I stopped wearing a barrette in my hair, and it's because any other time I'd go get a haircut and nobody would cut it to a place that I felt comfortable. And there was this, I'll never forget, like, actually he's still in our town. And I'm surprised my mom, I don't know, she really took to this guy and being as religious as she is, so high-minded, and I call it a religious spirit where you're not Christian enough for, she's hung up on things like that. But there was this server at this restaurant, and he had a boyfriend, and they were living together. Believe it or not, my mom's the one that helped me, back when we were still talking, helped me. She's like, oh, you know, this guy cuts hair. And I was like, you know, I've never had a man cut my hair. And I feel like, you know, I'm giving him a chance, because girls, they always want to cut it too short. They always want to cut too much off. They don't appreciate the long hair. They always want to cut it short. And I absolutely loathe and hate that. I prefer long hair. I just feel better about myself. And he cut my hair, and it's the best haircut I've ever had. Like, he layered it. And stuff. Well, the gentleman that he's in a relationship with, like, he had gone through some heart problems, so he hasn't cut my hair in a long time. I think I tried a couple times, but he had so much going on. I didn't want to bother him, because I would go to his house so he could cut my hair. Nicest guy in the whole wide world. And so because I've watched, I can cut my own layers a little bit. I'm not great. Granted, I'm not him, and my hair looks much better when he does it. But, yeah, so I have this, you guys, this is one of the interesting things about YouTube and what it's done for me. I couldn't deal with the sound of my voice, which now, you know how, okay, so if you're not used to filming, what you hear and what you hear that other people hear are not the same thing normally. I'm at a place now where the voice in my head is the exact same voice I hear on video. Like, they're not different. And that's from years of filming with you guys. I think the first couple, and I used to do it on Facebook when I was with Perfectly Posh. I used to film videos. Okay, so for this video, I thought it would be fun if I showed you my girl. See, this is Isabella, who's getting a bath, and Sweet Pea. And they don't really like getting a bath, but I wanted to show you Perfectly Posh and how I bathe my rats. And, okay, so we're back. So this is my new Perfectly Posh. I just found it online. It's their witchy wash. So it's lavender and mint. So I thought this would be fun for the girls on Facebook too. So it began there, but I still have this thing where what I am seeing in the camera while I'm filming is different. Like, I'm so busy looking at every single tiny flaw on my body. Like, this hair is out of place. Like, you know, this side looks flat and this side doesn't. Or sometimes I can't study that much, or I feel awkward. But what I'm seeing is different. When I watch the video back to make sure I don't have wax on my nose, because I've done that a few times. I've uploaded the videos and been like, oh, for the love of Pete, what was I thinking? I spent like 15 minutes with wax on my nose. Like, seriously, like, hysterically laughing and just being like, I'm not taking this video down because it is kind of funny. I can't take myself seriously. You guys might as well laugh at it too and have fun because it's actually hysterical. I'm like, but I'm mortified, embarrassed. I'm just like, like I had lipstick on my teeth before. I'm just like, whatever. It's out there. It is what it is. It's me, flaws and all. But what I'm seeing right this minute, I am so heavily critical, like I can't possibly post this. Then I watch the video back and I'm less critical of myself. I think, Rosie, stop. Did you hear her screaming? She's covered. She's gonna keep doing it, I know, because she's a brat. Sassy, birds are sassy. But when I watch it back, I think, okay, I don't look as bad as I think I do. Okay, I'm okay. Like, I judge myself less harshly. I don't know what that is. Sometimes I'll see photographs and be like, no, like, are you telling me that I actually look like that? That's awful. Like, I can't handle that. When I take selfies, I will take probably 20 of them and pick the best one. Because I'll be so hypercritical of so many of them. You guys have no idea. And Dale, I can't take his compliments seriously. I can't. I'm just like, oh, that's nice. But I'm looking at me and no. I see every flaw. So it's really hard for me sometimes to take compliments because I'm like, no, like, you're not being honest. You're just being nice. I mean, okay, thank you. And then sometimes I just try to think of it as like, okay, so he's like an opposite dysmorphia where he sees something that isn't actually real, and okay, I guess that's okay. You're picturing in your mind, you're clouded by emotions, and you're picturing something that's not actual reality that every other person is not seeing, but okay. Thank you. So in a way, it's been kind of healing. I still struggle, believe it or not, when I'm filming, to just look at myself and be comfortable with myself. It's not until I actually watch it back to make sure, I try to edit out the bird, or if it's possible, or the cat's being obnoxious or something. Or me dropping something and picking it up and not wanting to see my body on the camera. Yeah, like those kind of things. It's actually though, it's weird to me that I can look in the mirror and see one thing and feel one way about myself, but yet watch it back or see a picture and be like, oh Lord, or be like, okay, it's not as bad as it looks. It's just, it's a weird phenomenon that the brain does. I don't know. I literally don't know how to not be hypercritical. And I think a lot of that comes from my mom. Sorry. I hope you're not using AirPods. I was never quite good enough for my mom. Like, I was too shy. Like, she was very outgoing and sociable, and I guess when she was younger, she was a party girl, and that's not me, and she couldn't ever accept that part of me, that I was different and shy, and just embrace that part of me. Now, Cassie and I are identical. She's actually a little more, I wouldn't say outgoing necessarily, but a little more adventurous than me. Like, she went on a people-to-people, if you're in the US, like the program, I forget how it's kind of like a student exchange, but she only spent like a couple nights with the family. But she went to Europe with this group of people all by herself. Like, she was okay with that. She went to college like 14 hours away. All the way up in Maine. And she was okay with it because she knew what she wanted to do and she's willing to do it. Like, she went on from Maine. Was it Maine? No, she was in Wisconsin at the time. She had like an internship in Wisconsin for zoology at an animal park out there. She was okay with going from Wisconsin. Was it Wisconsin, or maybe she was living in Maryland? Trying to get that timeline straight. I think she was in Maryland. I take it back. She wanted to leave that place. Good. Yeah, I could get into that story, but that's not my story. But anyways, she went on a job interview and flew to Kansas and ended up getting the job. Like, she doesn't have any problem doing that, whereas I might be like, I'm not doing that. Are you crazy? Like, are you crazy? I'm not doing that. So we differ a little bit there, but I knew what it was like. So I was never about to force my daughter to do things like that she didn't want to do, to not embrace her personality and honor her personality. Yeah, so, Eric shares some of my things, but yeah, maybe people wouldn't parent them the way I would, and maybe I'm too soft on men and I don't force him to get a job. Simply because I remember my dad forced me to get a job. I was 19. Forced me. I cried when I got the job. You guys, I'm like the most pathetic person. You really have no idea. I cried and I cried. I hadn't had a job before. Cried. and went to the job interview where I visibly had been crying. Got the job. My first day on the job was what we call, it was at a grocery store and I was a cashier, and it was Midnight Madness, and it's this 2-hour event where they slash the prices on groceries. And there was a line from the front of the store where I was at the cash register all the way back to the meat department. My line. That was my first job. It was horrifying. Horrifying. But did I make it? Did it make me a stronger person? Yes. But that's, Cassie's adventurous, whereas Eric, I'm not going to force him to do something. Do I wish? Sure, I wish. But I'm not going to force him. I'm not going to be this person, hey, get a job or get out. That's not me. That's not how I parent. And frankly, it was like COVID and, was it COVID or did COVID come after? No, it was like COVID. And he was in cyber school because he just couldn't function with teachers yelling at him in high school. He would take himself to the bathroom or the principal's office and be like, I'm not dealing with you. And he would go sit there, and he was in an IEP or whatever, because ADD, he's not hyper, but I know that a lot, he can't stand the confrontation because I can't stand confrontation either. And a lot of it stems from his dad. My daughter doesn't deal well with it either, but she deals well with it better than my son. But my son just doesn't deal well with confrontation. And I know why. And yes, I've tried therapy. He just doesn't talk to people. So, he's 21 now. I can't force. That's just not how I am. Either you want to do whatever or you don't. It's okay. I understand. I'm not a therapy person either, simply because I've tried it a few times and all they want you to do is rehash everything. And the only time I ever got someone that actually made a difference was in the hospital after an attempt. When you have to check yourself in for a few days. And he's the only one, but he worked at the hospital. It's not like you could just go talk with, set up an appointment with him. Everybody else just, and how did you feel about that? I don't want to talk about how I felt about it. Like, why are you making me feel all of that again? You're dredging it up, but you're not helping me do anything with it. I don't want to talk about how I feel about it. It was pointless to me, so I've done a lot of study on my own, and I've just done my own therapy. God works in mysterious ways. So, yeah, I don't know, I got off on a bunny trail. Yeah, so my mom has a tendency, some of the things that happened with my ex, she would go get her own, counseling, or, tell people about stuff that happened to me, as though it was a horrible thing that happened to her. And how is she going to deal with that? Like, that happened to me. Like, you don't have to embarrass me anymore. That I've already been embarrassed. Like, it's about me. It's not about you. This is not about how this is making you feel. Like, what about me? Like, I'm enduring it. You're just my mom. Like, it didn't happen to you. So, just trying to decide of what I want to say. I mean, there's some things I've wrestled with God about this. I don't really want to talk about it. And for some reason, I feel like I'm supposed to. A part of it is, then just Ursula's story sounds weird. If I don't, I guess I got to get to the supernatural things in my story. But some of it, I'm like, I don't want people to look at me and think about that trauma. Like, I don't want people to think of that every time they see my face. Like, I just want to forget about it. Like, it's a chapter in a book, and I just want to close it and put the book on the shelf. I don't want people to be constantly reminded of it. I want to move past it. And I know I've watched a lot of, survivors of abuse, one form or another. It is encouraging to me to hear their story. Number one, to know I'm not alone. Number two, their courage. If they can endure things that I think are worse than what I've endured, I can do this. And it's funny how God works. Like, I know God lets you go through things sometimes to shape you the way that you need. Like, if you didn't endure certain experiences, like, that's how he uses that to mold you and to shape you into a stronger person and give you the courage and the strength to be the person that he needs you to be. And it's more than just selfish, jealousy, God is a jealous God or whatever, and wants to draw you close to him. It's a little bit more deep than that. It's more like you have a purpose. All of us have a purpose. We're not all going to be Noah, and we're not all going to save the animals on the ark, from world destruction. I could get into that whole biblical thing. But we're not all going to be Noah. We're not all going to be David, and we're not all going to fight a giant. But God kind of had to shape David to like Joseph in the coat of many colors. God allowed his brothers to sell him into slavery. Yeah, God loves him, and yeah, God could have rescued him. But he also needed that tragedy and that horrible event to shape him and mold him into the courageous person that he was going to be. Does that make sense? Sometimes you wouldn't be the person that you are today. And there are things that sometimes I wish I knew how they would have turned out if they'd have been differently. But I trust that God knew what he was doing. And the fact that when I met Ursula and then she passed away, knowing that all of that brought me to her, I wouldn't change it. No matter how devastating, no matter how hard I try to overcome the anxiety, I have CPTSD, complex post-traumatic stress disorder. So I get panic attacks. The actual massive panic attacks started with my ex, but I've always had anxiety. I've always been shy. I've always had certain things that just exacerbated, the more time went along and the more trauma. So some of the supernatural things. Supposedly, this I don't remember, but my mom tells me if we can trust her. But I think we can because my grandpa kind of cooperated. I think that's the word. Also verified. My dad was working third shift, and third shifts, he's done that my entire life. You get more money, and he was okay with it. Apparently I was having really bad stomach aches, and I don't know if my mom just decided it was appendicitis or if she had called and they said, sounds like she has appendicitis, bring her into the emergency room or whatever. The symptoms. Anyways, she called my grandpa, who was a retired pastor at the time, and to come pray for me. And God healed me of that. By the time we got to the emergency room, no pain, nothing. They couldn't find anything wrong with me. Not a fever, nothing. Never had a problem since. I don't know. I do know what I know of the miraculous experiences in my life. So we had bought this house, and my parents, it had a dirt basement. It was like a partial basement, and my parents wanted to make it a full basement, so they were trying to dig in the dirt part. I guess that's why I'm weird about things smelling like a dirt basement, like petrichor. At first I thought I liked it, and then I was like, maybe because it's reminding me of this, not so much. But they were digging down there, and I remember they had all these gemstone books. They must have been finding stuff down there, rocks, and trying to see if they were worth anything. At the time, we ended up getting termites, so who knows what they unearthed. But they had unearthed some bones, and they claim that they were human. I don't know. I don't think ever told anyone. Fear, whatever. Well, all of these haunted things started happening. My mom claims that she would see Satan like driving in a car and like this evil smile. And why are you telling your little kid this anyway? But I remember from my personal experience, we had bats. I remember them being scared and not digging in the basement anymore, and they were done with that. That was over, and I remember all this stuff happening after. But I remember my mom and her massive amount of fear and whatever. I remember we had bats, and they would come every single night, and I was just like, you're a little kid and there's a bat flying, and your mom's screaming and terrified. And of course, then you get scared, like, what is going on? I don't mind bats now. I kind of embrace them, kind of like Batman. But at the time you're scared, you're like, it's because my mom tells me it's gonna get stuck in my hair. It's like flying around, you know. And so then my dad's working third shift, and it happens all the time. So we ended up spending a lot of nights at my grandparents' trailer. They would come and pick us up, and then we would stay with them, and then I would have to go to school. My mom is crazy, y'all. Then we cut down the pussy willow tree out back because my dad thought it was that, and then he put on a new roof, and it just kept getting bats. And it is when you replace the roof and all that stuff, I guess. We moved, but I remember that. I remember ever since that whole event in the basement, could have been psychosomatic as a kid, but there was my parents' room upstairs. Then you had to walk through their room to get to my room. And then off from my room, I mean, the attic was in my room, and it was a pull down attic, so you had to pull down the stairs. And off my room was like a little cubby that at some point my dad's daughter from another marriage stayed with us for a while, and she stayed in there. So she had like a bedroom. So, but it kind of felt like a dormer. And it had slanted, but it was big enough. I don't know. So I remember feeling like there was something in there, and it was watching me all the time, and it wasn't a good feeling. Yeah, so there's that. I'm trying to think. I think that's all the kind of like ghosty things in that house. So when I was with my ex, I was trying to escape because I would try to leave, and the consequences were always worse than staying, but I couldn't stay. So at the time, we'd become friends with this girl that I worked with and her husband. And I mean, I was young, you guys. I was in my 20s. I mean, the things you wish you could go back and do, but I was like, here's my opportunity. Like, he was kind of hitting on me, telling me he loved me. And of course, when you're in like a narcissistic, abusive relationship where the guy is cheating on you constantly, telling you it's all your fault, you're not pretty enough, you're not skinny enough at 113 pounds. Not skinny enough, no one's gonna want you. And you believe him because no one wanted you this far except him. Like, probably not. No one in high school wanted me, kind of a thing. So, okay. And you believe all of that? I was like, wait, here's someone who's saying that they love me, and he seems really nice. And was it right? No, but it was an opportunity to escape with someone. And we had like this whole, you know, Jimmy Swagger, and like, what is it, like 700 Club in common, and he was gonna take me somewhere and, you know, whisk me away. And so I believed that. I'm the most naive person in the world. And I never told my mom about this guy. I never told my grandpa about this guy. My grandpa called up my mom told my mom, which my mom told me, to stop the relationship with whoever this is, because he was a demon. And I was like, what? How is that even possible? Like, I don't even know that I believe that that's possible. But the fact that God instructed my grandpa, and my grandpa compelled it, and he was dead on. Like, I don't know about the demon part, but I mean, he was dead on about this guy. Like, I hadn't told them. There's no way he could have known unless God told him that. I was like, okay, well, my ex, when I told my ex, and my ex was like, you know, threatened to beat him up, blah, blah, blah. He wasn't really good. This guy wasn't really going to take me anywhere. I was like, of course not. Like, of course I fell for that. Whatever. So that's one weird experience. I know my grandpa had told me growing up that he was praying and God had appeared to him. But he didn't turn around. Like, the awe of the experience, like, he couldn't look at God. Now, granted, he knows, I guess in the Bible it says, I don't remember this part in the Bible, but I guess you can't look upon God's countenance as too holy or whatever. I don't know. It worked for some of those people that were translated, like Enoch and Elijah or whatever. They were just taken up. But anyways, so I don't know. I always thought that was interesting that my grandpa said he had an experience with God. So I knew, like, my grandpa had this close relationship with God. And then that, trying to think. I mean, I guess then we get to my story. I mean, the whole thing's my story, but, my supernatural experiences. So, I was 19. When I got my first job, I kind of dated this kid. He was a senior in high school, and I was like a year after high school. It's not like we're that far apart. It did feel weird to date someone younger. Only a year, but still. No, he was 18 and I was 19. I graduated when I was 17. But anyways, tried to date this kid, but I tell him, yeah, I'm shy. It takes me a while. I need to get to know you. I can't just... And so he dumped me for a girl who was a little more promiscuous than I intended to be. So there's that. Then I met my ex. And I had become friends with a girl in the photo lab. And her sister's husband, my friend, was staying with her sister and husband. Her sister's husband, her brother-in-law. They were married, but she was staying with them for a while she was in high school and stuff. And their friend ends up being my ex. And I can name him. His name is Aaron. I guess we'll refer to him as Aaron. I was, he was trying to hit on my friend, and she knew better. Like, she knew he was out of jail. You think that would have been my first sign. No, Melissa, the bleeding heart who thinks that she can save the world. It's like, and she went down, and I felt sorry for him because he had this, 1.5-year-old, and he just wanted to go to a movie with her, and I was like, I'll go to a movie with you. I deserved everything I got. He's like, okay, and so we started dating, and he was patient with me, and all of that stuff, and I think it took him like a good 2 months just to kiss me. Like, I was just impressed with his patience and understanding and all of that. I won't go into too much gory detail. So I ended up getting, and then, it's, if you, I don't know how to put that. If you stop being a virgin to be with me, like, I will marry you. And I was like, well, okay. Next day he shows up with a ring. I was like, well, okay. Like, and he proposed. I was like, okay, I think he's a good guy. I was still 19 at the time. But I was almost, because it was like right around my birthday, which we all know is in October. And then I turned 20. And then, anyways, his 1.5-year-old's mom, he was cheating on me with her before we even got married, like the whole time. And, you know, we get into a fight and then it'd be all my fault and then he'd get with her. Like, you know, or, oh, she has cancer. She didn't have cancer. She lied just to get him back. And then, of course, then I'm like, well, if I have a baby with him, lo and behold, here comes Cassie, who, you know, I was just distraught that he was cheating on me, and I was like, you know, I can make him a better person. Isn't that how it always goes? And that will solve everything, and it doesn't. He cheated on me, like, while I was in the hospital after I had her, like, give me a break, like, he's a piece of crap. But, yeah, and it was always my fault. I was like, whatever. So then, you know, you got married when I was like 6 months pregnant. Because that was the thing to do. My grandpa married us and all of that. Well, then it just progresses, and, you know, things happen, which I don't want to go into the detail. I just don't. Just things that, you know, I'd be forced to do that I didn't want to do. No, I didn't murder anybody or anything like that. I'm just saying, like, things that I was, you know, forced upon me that I didn't want forced upon me. You know, pretending to be me to have things forced upon me. I think you can read between the lines there. Yeah. So, you know, talk me into photographs and things, and I worked in a photo labs. So when I was all alone, I could just develop them and pull them out. No one would see them but me. And then one of my punishments for leaving was take those photographs, compromising photographs, and post them all over town. Restaurants, shelters, neighbors, place I worked. That, I wouldn't trade that, because that moment, when every time from that moment until modern day, whenever I feel like something is too difficult, like I can't emotionally cope, I go to that moment where God gave me the courage to be like, I'm separated from this guy. I'm living with my parents, you know, 2 blocks over, from this abusive, horrible human being who's trying to get me back by posting compromising photographs of me for people. I mean, I think the worst, whatever, with the neighbors and whatever, I don't know those people, but the people that I worked with, I'm like, oh my God. I was dating someone at the time at my parents' house, because it was almost the 2-year separation point, where then you were legally allowed to be divorced. In the state of Pennsylvania, you have to have a 2-year separation. So if they won't divorce you in 2 years, you have that 2 years time. Been through that twice with them in the state of it. Anyways, so this kid had, you know, working in a town far away, came to live with me and my parents at their house or whatever, and Aaron's one of his cellmates calls us up at my parents' house and is like, you know, there are these pictures of you and it's got your phone number on it. And I was like, a cell phone, I believe. It's back when there were cell phones. Nokia bright canary yellow phone that was like, it was big compared to cell phones we have now. There are these pictures of you, like I went to the grocery store and where I was working in the photo lab, and there are these pictures of you like everywhere, and they have your phone number on them, and for a good time, call. So my boyfriend at the time went over and tore them all down. Well, Aaron was waiting outside, saw that, reposted them all over the store after he left. So I get a call from the manager letting me know. I had to work that next day, and I was trying to be a single mom, leave my ex, or my separated husband. I was trying to leave him, and he had been stalking me and all this stuff. He's got stalking charges and stuff, felony charges, because I had pictures of him sitting out of work and everything while I was working and driving around, and anyways, witnesses and all that stuff. I just said, you know what? It doesn't matter. I know why I allowed those photographs to even be taken in the first place. I know that I was the only one that saw them. I know that in my innocence, I trusted that my, at the time, husband wouldn't ever do anything like that they were for his own private viewing. But I said, it doesn't matter. It doesn't matter, because I know, I don't care what any one single person thinks of me. I've never really been able to depend on human beings. They've always let me down one way or another. God knows the truth. God knows who I am. God knows me, and God knows the story, and it doesn't matter. I need to go to work. I need to hold my head high because I know the truth, and it doesn't matter. I know the story. I know it's not what it looks like. I know I'm not the kind of person that made it look like, and I'm gonna just go in there, and I'm gonna, work, and I'm gonna make money to support my daughter and I. And I did. I walked into work, and I have never been so humiliated in my entire life. I have never, it was so mortifying. And I knew that if I could do it, that I had God. If I had nothing else in the whole wide world, I had God, and He was my best friend. It was gonna be okay. And it was. And people were actually nice to me. I wanted to explain, and they said, you don't have to explain. That says way more about him than it says about you. And I use that moment every time something where it feels like my world comes crashing down. I think if I could survive that, I can survive this. So yeah, God uses those moments to shape you and mold you, and all of that not only has made me stronger and realize that I have courage and strength that sometimes even I don't think I have, but it all led me to Ursula, and she's such an integral part of my life that I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't trade it. I wouldn't alter it, no matter how, and you guys, it always keeps me humble. If you could be that degraded, and humiliated and embarrassed and mortified, it keeps you humble, and it keeps you kind. And you know what? I would rather be who I am. I would rather struggle looking at myself and criticize everything about myself, and I would just to be a nice person, because I know what it feels like. I don't treat people that way. So I wouldn't change it. I wouldn't change it. And I read a Stephen King book, and I'm telling you, I think everybody in the entire world should read this book. It's not scary unless you find time traveling scary. It's 11/22/63. And I thought it was going to just be about Kennedy. And you know how he was like assassinated or whatever, and it was going back in time and fixing it. Well, it is that in a way. But it's basically this guy who went back in time and tried to alter that, but his own experiences and life in the time traveled life, and this cute like relationship and thing that he had, and how every time something would mess up and they would go back and he would start over and he would try to fix it again, and something else would go wrong. Like the timing was just off, and he mixed up something else, and then he had to go back, and he kept going and coming and going and coming. And he would get further each time where he would correct that, but then something else would go wrong. And it's basically the most powerful story of basically telling you why just leave it alone. It all happened for a reason, and our lives connect with one another. It's kind of like a spider web is how I kind of see it. Like this line crosses this person, like, you know, you cross this person here and this person here and this person here. And the impact, kind of like It's a Wonderful Life. The impact that you've had on someone else, you may never know it, but it's powerful and it's important, and it needed to happen for a reason. And God knew what he was doing, that he intersected us all at these points in our lives. We all connected for a reason, the way that we connected, and it shaped us and it molded us, and it was important and it needed to happen. And if you change it, it changes the way it was supposed to be for your best. It was so extremely powerful. And it was literally just leaving everything alone. Don't mess with what already happened. It had to happen. It needed to happen. It was good the way that it was. You know, if someone's in an accident, there's a reason that they were in an accident and paralyzed. Because in that story, like when you go back and you change it, yeah, you might have made that person's life better, but you ruined like 5 other people in the meantime. Because they didn't connect the way that they were supposed to. And so things fell out of sync and order. And does that make sense? I hope that makes sense. So I know that as embarrassing as maybe that was an important moment for someone else beyond me. And regardless, it brought me to Ursula. And I wouldn't trade that. Like, God knew what he was doing, and I'm happy with what he did. I learned lessons. Those lessons were painful, and they were humiliating, and they were embarrassing, and they were emotionally traumatic, but I'm here today and I'm okay. And so that another supernatural, you guys are gonna think I'm nuts. If you don't believe in God, you're gonna think I'm nuts. Okay. Part of the reason why I battled with God about this, but okay. Yeah. So I was in bed. Our bedroom when I was with my ex was Aaron. I hate using his name. When I was with Aaron, was in the attic, and I was up there, and there was a door at the bottom of our attic bedroom. It would prevent the animal. He always starts. He's like into construction, and he always starts projects and never finishes them. So he built most of the attic. Well, then he didn't finish it, and so there were places in the walls that were open, and the cats could get in them and crawl through the walls. And I was like, no. Like, then they would go down to the people downstairs' apartment, and they would call, and they were mentally challenged, and they were always nice about it. But I was just like, you know, like, so he put the door on there so the cats couldn't go through, crawl through the walls or get stuck or whatever. I'm like, seriously, like, this is, just finish it. Anyways, so the door was shut, and I was in the bedroom, and I was trying to go to bed. I think he was watching a movie or something that I wasn't interested in. And I was in bed, and I was in there for, it's not like I think I was listening to music or something. I was just in there. I wasn't asleep or anything. I was in there for a while. And this figure came up the stairs. And it was solid. It's not like it was an apparition or anything. I don't do drugs. Yes, I've done anxiety medications, but I was not on drugs. I was not drinking. It looked like a black hooded figure. There was no face, but it was coming towards me. You know, it looked like, I hate to say, every time I watch my favorite Christmas story, The Muppet Christmas Carol, the Grim Reaper at the end. It didn't have a scythe or anything, but it was just this black hooded figure with like this black, almost hole kind of for a face. There was no facial definition of any kind. It was just this black thing, and it was walking towards me. It felt like Satan. I don't know if it was specifically Satan or just demonic or whatever. If you don't believe in any of that, I apologize, because this is going to sound nuts, but I'm telling you, that kind of stuff has followed me my entire life. So yeah, and I was so scared. I just, from all of my biblical upbringing, I knew. I read the Bible through the entire time. I can name the Old Testament, but I get tripped up on the New Testament, oddly enough. But all of my background, I knew that the name of Jesus holds such power. And I couldn't but hardly whisper, Jesus. Like, I couldn't hardly get it out. And as soon as I whispered it, it stopped coming towards me. And it was looking at me. And I just kept trying to say, Jesus. And every time I would say it, and I would get a little bit louder and a little bit louder, my heart was like pounding out of my chest because I was just terrified, like almost frozen in fear. When I get scared, like I freeze. Like when my daughter ran out in front of a car, like I froze, and then my ex, like I can't control it, like I freeze. And he, of course, grabbed her, and you know, it's all thanks to him that whatever. I can't control it. It's just I freeze. And so it's all I could do, but I just kept saying it, and then I would get louder, like Jesus, Jesus. And I could see that it was having power over this entity of whatever sort, and it disappeared like that. The louder I got, the more I could say it, the more courage, like knowing that the name of Jesus was working, disappeared, gone. And then I just sat, and I thank God, and I thank God. And when I say that I've always had like a bond and a closeness with God, I don't know anything else. I remember wanting to die because I couldn't leave because compromising photos of me were everywhere. He handcuffed one of the other time. I had a PFA against him because he tried to throw me down the stairs, ripped part of my hair out. He knocked me down first, which now I have a degenerative disc disease because that, like, he smacked me and I saw stars like almost knock me out, hit my head, and then he tried to pick me up and throw me down the stairs because he wanted me to get out. You guys, it was in my socks. Thank God my parents lived 2 blocks away. He didn't throw me down the stairs. I grabbed onto the railing, but he yanked some of my hair out, and it was on my arm. And so when I did leave, and he locked me out with nothing but the clothes I was wearing and no shoes, didn't even throw any out. My kids were inside, well, just Cassie at the time, and my stepson. And I walked to my parents' house, and this clump of hair. And my dad, of course, called the cops, and, you know, they filed this PFA or whatever. They had the clump of hair. So you go to court, you do the whole PFA thing. I hate all of that. Did that. And it was, I always celebrate, ever since I was really young, and I talked my parents into it. I know you're not, I know there's no Santa. I know you are Santa. Let's just open presents on Christmas Eve. And we did, and it became our tradition. So I've carried that on, tried to do that with my kids. So to me, I wanted Christmas Eve and he could have Christmas. And so he got, you know, my daughter, custody of my daughter on Christmas night. It was Christmas night, and if you know someone is a narcissist, don't ever make the mistake of telling them your like greatest fear or whatever. So he knew, like, I was, you know, one of my fears was being stabbed to death. Because I have cut my finger as a little kid and cut it down to the bone. So that was always been scary ever since I was little. And so I can't imagine, that sounds horrible to me. And so I was scared when he came over that night. And he knocked on the door. I was like, what is he doing? Like, there's a PFA. Like, at any minute we could call the cops. What is he doing? And so I was like, my gut was telling me, don't open the door because he's probably going to stab you to death. Like, don't open the door. So I didn't. I stood on the stairs and I was just battling that with myself. And my dad called the cops. And then he heard it on the scanner. He had a rental car. Had my 5-year-old daughter, who was sleeping at the time, handcuffed in the car because he had a friend that was a police officer, and he had traded his handcuffs for so he traded that. So he had the handcuffs, which that guy, I'm sure, hates him now because of that. But she was handcuffed in the car so that if I had come out and he wanted to talk to me, I couldn't take my daughter because she's handcuffed in the car until he was ready. Well, supposedly later he was going to tell me that he was going to commit suit. You know, he was committing, they love me, blah, 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 give me Cassie, and then go run his rental car into it. His 8-year-old was home alone sleeping at the time. He was going to run that rental vehicle into his dump truck, which was parked with sand, sure enough, like a couple blocks from my parents' house. Well, the plan got changed because I didn't open the door and he didn't get to talk to me, and he heard it on the scanner that the call went in, and he took off with my daughter on a high-speed police chase. Our town to, 20 minutes away. Like 100 miles an hour they had clocked him, like 100 and something. He's just speeding to, where he grew up a few towns over. And through the woods, deer cut it. God is there in that moment, watching over what happens. And yeah, he stopped at his brother's girlfriend's house, broke their window, broke his nose, got his key, because when he was talking to his brother took the key or whatever. He got the key and he left. Then he went to his best friend's house in that town, and his best friend's like, just give me your daughter. Go do what you're gonna do, but give me your daughter. So he, thank God, gave my daughter to this guy, his friend, and then he took off again, trying to do death by, or the S word that you can't use. Tried to take his own life by cop, by police officers shooting him. Like, eventually, they cornered him, a citizen. Oh, I feel so bad that people got involved. This citizen stopped him so that the police officers could then, and he was like, shoot me. And they're like, no. And he got arrested. That was my punishment for leaving. So, of course, I felt like I couldn't leave. And I felt like the things that were forced upon me against my will, I couldn't stay. And I would say to God, like, you couldn't possibly, as much as I love you, like, you can possibly want this life for me. Like, what is happening? you know, and you do that wrestling with God. But when I say that I've always had a close relationship with God, like, I just wanted to die. I just wanted to die. I wanted to escape. And there's no escape, and it was like a nightmare every single day. And I couldn't deal with reality, and I couldn't leave because it was horrible, like, and I didn't know what else to do. And you get so depressed. And I'm telling you, when life gets that dark, and okay, so this is how I picture it. Like, normal people that don't go through the worst things ever, like, there's this door, you know, to your being, to your soul, to your reality, I guess, your mental. There's like this door. Well, the door falls out, and you fall down this well into your mind, your soul. Once you've been down there, like, you have to be hurting so bad to start trying to die. Because it hurts. It's not fun. I've tried multiple things because I had to escape. I couldn't stay. I couldn't leave. I couldn't deal. Like, I had to escape. And you're like, God, why aren't you helping me? Like, why aren't you helping me? And I just, yeah. So I had, when my daughter was 3, we went to SeaWorld, and I had an episode on the way home, like a panic attack. I'm like, I'm gonna throw up. Like, I stop the car. And he would stop the car. I would get out, and when I didn't feel trapped inside the car, like, I would feel better. I didn't feel like I was gonna throw up. But every time I think I'm gonna throw up, like, my heart starts pounding, and I just, my mom. Started that, like, she was constantly, I don't know if she's making herself sick or if it was just this drama to get people to feel sorry for her, but she was constantly ill. Like, I got for a while to where I was afraid of elevators because my mom would act like she was gonna throw up. Like, my dentist, you had to ride the elevator to go to my dentist, and every time I went to the dentist, she would, like, and she wouldn't throw up, but she would dry heave, and I'd be like, I don't want to ride elevators anymore, and I don't know what's happening, and I don't like any part of this, and it created this anxiety and trauma in me. So, to the point that, like, I get panic attacks when someone has the flu, and I think I could catch that, and I'm gonna throw up. Like, get away from me. Like, I'm scared. Like, don't give me what you have. Like, and then because of the empathy, I will sometimes take on the symptoms, be like, I don't feel good. The next morning I wake up just fine. I'm just starting to feel their feelings and then starting to panic about it. You guys, I'm a hot mess. I might look all, like, fun and cute and shy and nice, but I'm telling you, like, I'm a hot mess. Dale's, like, doing a wedding, and I mean, I'll have to stop this if he comes home because I don't want to talk about it. With him and running around the background making noise and stuff, that'll just distracting. And anyways, so I kept thinking I was gonna throw up, and I was like, stop the car, and then we'd go a little bit further and it would happen again. I'd be like, stop the car, and I'd be fine. I was like, I don't know what's happening to me. And then it got to be, I couldn't go to Jamestown 45 minutes away. I couldn't go to Erie, like, an hour 20 minutes away. I couldn't get in the car and go anything more than around town without that happening. And then I had to go to the doctor, and I'd get anxiety medication. And then with the temps, then they want to give you that and an antidepressant. Thinking that's going to solve all your problems, and it doesn't. Yeah, so I started hoarding the medication. And at one point I took 15, and you would think that would kill someone. They were like 1 milligram Klonopin. And one right now kind of makes me like, oh, like I'm tired. I just, you kind of zone out a little bit. I mean, but it brings down all of your heightened like fight or flight, like hypervigilance and everything when you're really in the middle of a bad, severe anxiety attack, like a panic attack. Like, I didn't die. I have black pockets of my mind where I slept the entire day, but I was fine. I was like, okay, that's weird. God, why, seriously, like, if that's you, like, that's not funny. Like, I have to escape. Like, if you're not going to help me, I'm going to do it myself. Then, I think the next time I took 20. I think that would kill someone. Then I took 30. I would just sleep for days at a time. And obviously I'm sleeping, so then I lose memory pockets because I was sleeping. I was like, okay, so I feel like this is God, and this is, he finds amusement in this. This is not funny to me. Like, this is life or death. Like, I don't think, maybe God doesn't understand. Maybe he's not listening to me. But I can't stay. Like, this is unbearable. Like, I literally, I need to go. Like, he alienated everybody from me. Like, it was miserable, and he's cheating on me. All of this stuff, right? And he was sexting with, like, 19-year-olds, and I'm not joking. Like, he's a vile human. And, like, God, you don't understand. I was like, okay, I'm allergic to penicillin. Like, the last time when I was 13, I took penicillin. Like, I got hives so bad, and, like, swollen lymph nodes to the point that my mom thought that I had mumps again, and measles. And so she took me to the emergency room or whatever, and here it was just an allergic reaction. She's allergic to penicillin. Well, she passed it on to me. So I can't take amoxicillin either, but so my ex can. He's not allergic to it, so he had a bottle in the medicine cabinet. I think they were like probably 10 or 15. Took them. I'm like, okay, God. You think you're smart, but I'm smarter. The naivety. That should have messed me up, you guys, and it didn't. I felt just fine. I wasn't sick, nothing. I was like, what is happening? Except that when I would go to the bathroom, it smelled like a penicillin plant. I was like that really should have messed me up. Like, it was one dose that I took that sent me to the emergency room, and here I took like half a bottle. What do you mean? Like, I'm fine. Then it was dawning on me. I'm like, God, are you standing in my way? Because now I'm angry at you. Now I'm just downright mad at you. Because, like, I'm a prisoner. Like, I have to escape. You don't understand. And you're God. You couldn't possibly want me to be here. I made a mistake. I need to go, and I can't live this way. Like, are you not listening to me? Like, this is, now I'm just angry at you. Like, this is not funny, and I'm just mad. So I had a plan. Obviously, I black out and sleep and can't wake up for like hours upon hours when I overdose on the Klonopin. 1 milligram nonetheless. So now I was mad, and now I was determined, and I hoarded 60. 30 doesn't work. Okay, let's try 60. And not only, and I apologize that this is going to be graphic because you actually have to know this part to understand. My ex used to enjoy talking about how he got off on strangulation. And he had 2 of the 3 serial killer. He didn't meet the 3rd. Maybe that's the one thing that prevents him from being that. So my plan was to, no, I think this time it was just, I think this wasn't the 60. This is the time that I went from 20 to 30. And I know that naysayers will try to steal the story from me or the miracles from me and tell me, well, your body was getting used to taking that many. It's not like I was taking that many over time. I mean, it was like, I'm taking that many. I'm telling you medically, it's not okay. Like, you shouldn't be okay. I don't care if you go from 15 to 20, you shouldn't be okay. Regardless, you shouldn't be okay. Unless, like, every day you're taking that many, and I wasn't. It's a miracle. And so I went to 30. And I was like, I'm going to black out. And I'm not going to be able... I'm going to let him do what he needs to do. And he's going to be thrilled in the moment that he's doing whatever he... And it doesn't matter because I'm going to get what I want. I'm going to pass out. I'm not going to be able to wake up. And he's going to do that. And I'm not going to be able to, like, come awake. And I'm going to die. And I'm going to succeed. And I'm telling you, I know that it worked. But you can't beat God. No matter how much you think that you can beat God, you can't beat God. It worked. And I was out, and he later tells me that my face was purple. Why you don't stop at that point if you genuinely love someone. The thrill of whatever. I remember my eyes shot open, like instantly, like I was popped back into reality and I couldn't breathe and I flailed, like I instantly panicked, and he let go, which it scared him. I remember the moment he let go, just sucking in like, and then coughing because like I hadn't been able to breathe, and I was choking and coughing, and you know, and I was raspy for days. I went to massage school the next day in the Erie. From here up looked like a hickey. I had blood, the blood vessels in this eye had burst. Like my eye was red, like my entire eye was bloody, and my face looked like a hickey. Like speckled all over the place. Like, I know that I succeeded, and I know I woke, as soon as I caught my breath and I understood what was happening. You guys, I'm not joking when Satan said to me, Stephen, God doesn't want you. And I believed him. I'm like, you're right. Maybe that's why God won't let me die. Even God doesn't want me. And I believed him with all of my heart. And I think God had a problem with that. I think that was too far. Because the next time, I tried to hang myself. It didn't work out. Oh, you guys, this is embarrassing. I feel like the worst mom ever. Cassie had a friend over. Her dad was out in the garage working, and I thought, I'll just hang myself. I don't know. It's an attic. Well, it was still a little too long, and I could still touch with my tippy toes. And I yelled for Cassie, and she came up. And I still feel so bad, and I'm like, go get your dad. And she, got her dad. And he came up, like, let me down, and then went back out to work. Every time I did these overdoses, he just went right back to doing, like, he sat in the living room this last time. I felt so bad. I still feel so bad that she saw that. Because when you're so distraught and the world is so dark, and I should tell you this deeper part too. You have to be hurting so bad to go to those lengths. I'm telling you, like you don't find joy in anything really. You're just in the world, like in the darkest place ever. Like, it is hell on earth when you get to that point. So don't hold the people that, I now have a compassion for the people like that, because you have to understand the emotional distraught trauma that someone's going through to get to that point, to do those things. And you can't possibly think about anyone else. Like, you're trying, but it just hurts so bad that they'll be okay. They're not hurting like you're hurting. They're gonna be okay. So until you're hurting like that, please don't ever say, like, don't be angry at the person, because they can't. Like whoever's left behind is not hurting as bad as they are. And I still feel that way. Because I know what it felt like. I know what it was like to be there. And as sad as I am, losing Ursula is still not as dark as that. Nothing is that dark. Like, it was so dark. Like, you're so lost in pain and darkness and trauma that you can't, it's impossible to, and it's true. Whoever's left behind, no matter what trauma they're going through, it's still not as bad as they are in that place. So they're not trying to be selfish. It just hurts so bad. It's unbearable. It's literally unbearable. And they just, that's the only answer left to get to. It's like chronic pain, but it's emotional, and it's so emotionally traumatic and horrible that you have to, like, it's compelling. Like, it has to stop. Like, you can only deal with so much pain before you're like, enough. Like, I can't endure this. And people have limits, and it breaks, your spirit breaks, basically. So, and I was like, okay, and I saved up the 60, and I took the 60. I remember drinking all the water to get them down. I remember laying in the bed and going to sleep. I do not remember. My ex Aaron told me later that I had come down the stairs, because our bedroom was in the attic, to go to the bathroom, and I had, I guess, vomit on my face. Went to the bathroom. What I remember is him helping me up the stairs. Like, that's where my memory comes into play. And I had he's not a good builder, contractor, at least he tries, but these attic stairs were so steep, and they were tall to try to get them all to fit in, I guess. I don't know the way that he built it. So they were tall and they were steep, and I fell going up them because I had 61 milligram Klonopin. Like, I was staggering, and lucky I was alive. And I'm falling up the stairs as he's trying to push me back up the stairs. And I hit my shin, and they weren't covered stairs, they were just plywood. And I, gashed my shin and it was bleeding. And I have this scar today. I was fully awake and aware, so no one can steal this from me. Because you can say it's a hallucination or whatever. I'm telling you it's not. I have the scar. I was awake. And get up the stairs, and beside the bed, I stepped in something, and it looked like chocolate pudding. It was it wasn't hard, and it wasn't liquid like pudding, but it was gelatinous. Does that make sense? And it was brown, and it was on my foot, and I was like, ugh, and there's a dirty clothes basket, and I pulled a towel out, like you get a shower, you come upstairs, you take your towel off, you throw it in the dirty clothes basket. There was a towel there, and I wiped my foot off, and I wiped whatever that was on the floor. I have low batteries, isn't that ironic? And I crawled back into bed because I'm like, what is that? I don't know what that is. It didn't look like anything. I assume that's something you would throw up when you've had 60 Klonopin and water and that's all in your stomach. And I laid down. I remember thinking, I'm still alive. Why am I still alive? You guys, I will never forget this as long as I live, like ever. And it's so detailed. This is not a hallucination. I have hallucinated before. Taking sleeping pills. Don't do that. That was not a fun experience. I know the difference. I hadn't even taken that many. Anyways, don't overdose on Tylenol. That's a bad experience too. I accidentally did that with a dental when it was in my bone infected, and I took too many within too close of a time period. Don't do that. That's bad. God showed up, and I will never forget the detail. His face was bright. I couldn't see his face because it was so bright. It was like looking at the sun. It was like this golden white light. But it didn't hurt your eyes. Like you know how when you look at the sun, you're not supposed to, but you know how you look at the sun just going, I want to see what it's like, out of curiosity, and it's like, ow, it burns. It didn't burn. And I'm staring at this light, and I looked down, and I knew it was God. It wasn't Jesus. I know the three are one. I got the distinct feeling, impression. It was all telepathic. I know that sounds crazy. That it was God. God himself. It wasn't Jesus. It wasn't the Holy Spirit. It wasn't an angel. It was God. It was there. And I knew it was God. And I could see like his arm was on my leg by my knee. But his hand reminded me of my grandpa. It was older, more aged, and he had like a white garment on his sleeve. And I was kind of dumbfounded, and I'm staring at him, and he says to me telepathically, "Are you done yet?" And I knew what he meant, like with the attempts. And I didn't say anything. I'm just kind of staring, like dumbfounded, like awestruck, going, "This is God?" Like, not really. Still trying to process, I guess, what I was seeing and what was happening. And he just poured peace, grace, compassion, love, gentleness all over me. And I am telling you, there's nothing on this earth that even compares to, like, the greatest amount of compassion or love that you could feel, even from an animal that's so unconditionally loving and trusting, pales a child. The way that your newborn child looks at you pales in comparison to what God poured upon me that day, that moment. just letting me know with the grace and the compassion that it's okay. I understand. And the love, like, don't listen to Satan. I love you. Like, I love you. See how much I love you. It's not true. I love you. And I knew in that moment that people that try to commit suicide or are successful with that, I almost said the word, with trying to take their own lives, they don't go to hell. God loves them. And you know the scripture verse, that's a myth. I actually asked Dale, has a doctorate in biblical theology, and he's done a lot of study. He said, where in the Bible does it tell me that people go to hell when they commit that? When they try to end their own lives? And he's like, it doesn't. I was like, I know. We're taught that, but it's not true. But it does say in the New Testament, Matthew, one of those, it's when Jesus was doing the Beatitudes, I think. I'm not good with the exact scripture verses. Like, Dale can quote things like that way better than I can. I don't have a doctorate in theology. But I spend a lot of time with God and trying to pick his brain. Like, we talk a lot. Well, I can't say he talks to me. I'm just saying he shows me things. It's not like I go around talking to God. I'm not schizophrenic. I know that people will try to be like, oh, okay, you know, she's seeing God. Okay, God talks to her. You know, I'm telling you no. You have to believe. You have to have a relationship with God, or else it just sounds nuts. There's a scripture that says that God is close to the brokenhearted, and he is. I think that God has an enormous, from experience, that God has an enormous amount of compassion. Why was I not sick? Why did he stop me and not other people? I think because sometimes the webs and the interconnections that we have with other people, I think sometimes those purposes are served, and it's okay. You can move on. Like it's your purpose is fulfilled. Mine is not. And I think he wasn't about to let me get out of fulfilling my purpose. Here's some wait, let me finish with the God story before I jump. And so it's awesome seems like too small of a word. There's not a word in the English dictionary that is big enough to describe. It's indescribable. It's unfathomable until you actually experience it. How huge God's love and God's compassion and God's grace is for us. And there is a book of the Bible. It's not considered divinely written by anyone. It's called the Book of Adam and Eve. It's not Gnostic. But it's like, I don't know, it's considered fairy tale story, like novel kind of thing. You guys, that book made me cry. I highly recommend it. I can see why it's not included in the Bible if it's not divinely written. If it is, quote unquote, fairy tale or whatever. I don't think so. Because in that book, the lost book that was found, it talks about Adam and Eve after the garden. And it talks about how just completely undone they were. They were sorry. They didn't mean to let Satan trick them into eating from the fruit of good and evil, the tree of good and evil. Like, they're sorry. They want back into the Garden of Eden. They want back there. And God's like, that book shows, and I'm telling you, I don't think it's a fairy tale or whatever, because I'm telling you, I can testify to this. God's enduring, his long suffering, his patience is insane. Like, you have no idea the amount of his patience. And I think that's why the evil in the world goes on as long as it does, because he's patiently waiting to give people more time to come to him. And his long suffering seems almost cruel to the people that are tortured or tormented and die in the process. It might seem cruel to them, but I'm telling you, the one person that is saved after is worth, because I believe that when you die and you're with God, it's okay. It's gone. You don't remember. Well, it's not that you don't remember. It doesn't matter anymore. Like, you're just so happy and at peace, and just to feel all of the things that God gave me that day, it's okay. Like, oh, okay, it was fine. It's worth it. I'm here now. That's all that matters. So it might seem, Satan will definitely use people to try to make that seem so cruel. And so, like, how could God allow children or, to be murdered by serial killers or abused or whatever? Like, how could God allow that to happen? It's not that God doesn't love them. It's that the person that didn't have the chance to be saved, he's waiting for them. And it's so intricate, you guys. It's not only that, the person that's waiting to get saved, and come to God. You want as many people to come to God as you can, and God gives people the strength and everything in that moment. If they feel any touch of what I felt at that moment, that God, it surpasses. I didn't feel dark, lost. I just felt whatever God was pouring over me. And so, and sometimes those situations needed to happen to shape people. Like, the interconnection still needed to happen so that everything happens and rolls out the way that it's supposed to. And it's so intricate and it's so detailed, and it's so, if you mess one little pinpoint up, it might seem like nothing, but I'm telling you, that Stephen King book, 11/22/63, please read it. I'm telling you, you see the domino effect that just one change has. And it's this huge domino effect, and you're like, this person then didn't run into this person, and they didn't save, George Bailey didn't save his brother's life, because he didn't make it, because this didn't happen to set him on that track. You're changing everything around you. It's not just you. You're changing this entire, like, huge cobweb of interconnections that need to happen. So just, it's okay. This is so momentary. It's eternity, and it's being with God that you want and you need to just be concerned most about. I mean, yeah, this matters for while we're here, but it's so temporary, and it's so, life is just, what are you gonna pick? Which side are you gonna pick? Are you gonna pick God? Are you gonna pick Satan? Are you gonna pick good? Or are you gonna pick evil? Like, it matters. Like, that's the whole purpose of being here, Yeah, it matters if you you shouldn't sin. It's, not good for the whole world, but what matters is, who are you gonna pick when the time comes? Like, are you gonna pick God, like God's side? Or are you picking Satan's side? Are you picking good, or are you picking evil? Like, that's what matters. Like, and don't do any harm in the meantime is the purpose of it. Don't kill people, don't steal, don't destroy people in the process. Just be a good person, but love God, because if you could just feel what I felt in that moment. So I never would anyway. I was never built that way, but I always get scared, like, what if I turn into my mom? Like, I don't want to be my mom. My mom used to whisper about people, like, when they're sitting, like, freaking right there, she's whispering about people, and I'd be so mortified. I'm like, do you think that they don't know that you're talking about them right now? Like, what kind of human being are you? Like, but I've learned that narcissists are literally incapable of feeling the feelings of others. Like, that's all I do. Like, it's so completely intensified for me. I don't know how not to feel people's feelings. Like, I can walk into a room and I can feel, like, if there is tension, I can feel, like, if there's joy, or if there's, like, I don't just go, oh yeah, they look sad. No, I'm feeling it. Like, I'm literally have trouble not taking on whatever I'm feeling. Like, I want to help people through life. Like, life is traumatic and devastating, and if I can help someone else, like, that's the person that I want to be. And I don't want to be my mom. I want to be everything. And I hate the moments that I look at a picture and I go, I look like my mom. Because most of the time I think I look like my dad, my birth father's side. And I always tried to be like my grandma on my mom's mom. Like, she was just this amazing human. I made her mad one time, and it's when I was little, like probably 5, trying to cross the road all by myself. And I was so proud of myself. My grandma was so terrified. Like, I can't believe you did that. Like, and that's the only time I ever made my grandma come unglued. And it was just the panic of, like, oh my gosh, like, and my cousin Jamie was like littler than me, and here we are walking across the road, and my grandma's like, what are you doing? Like, and I could, but she didn't have a mean bone in her body. Like, she didn't like, she wasn't like this gossip or this cruel, like, how in the world my mom turned out the way she did, I don't know. I couldn't have cats because she had this feud with my aunt, which is totally, I now see that was all my mom. And she used to make it seem like it was my aunt, and I used to just be like, well, I love them and I have so much fun with them. Like, why are you fighting? Like, can't you not fight so that I can see them? I just want to see my cousins. It's as close as I'm ever going to get to a brother and sister. Like, I loved them and wanted to be with them, and I had so much fun with them. And then my grandparents used to take me to see them when my mom wouldn't want to go. They'd still take me, and we would go. My grandparents and I would go see them and visit them because my mom had this like grudge or whatever. So I don't want to treat people the way that my mom treats people or be like my mom in any way whatsoever. There's Tater. Huh, baby? Yeah. You're my shadow, huh? So, yeah. And then I opened my eyes and he was gone. But I was left with this like intense peace. So much so that I went to sleep, and I don't know, it could have been a day. I went to school the next day, so it wasn't that long. Went to massage school, and they were like, my teacher was like, can we talk? And I think you need to go to this, what we call a safe place here for, I don't know. Then that place tried to make me, sent me in an ambulance to the hospital. And because it had been over 24 hours, then they couldn't pump my stomach. And I was like, yeah, like I feel fine. I might look like crap. I had this like splitting headache and I had a raspy voice and I look bad, but I'm fine. Like they sent me home. Went back to massage school and finished out the rest of my day. And his sister rode in the car with me. And what is wrong with people that they don't go, are you okay? Like, no one in my class was like, are you okay? It was just my freaking teacher in class. Otherwise, people, I don't know, you guys, I'm amazed. So, wasn't long after, I wasn't working and I graduated massage school and I get a job at Walmart. And I'd met Ursula in the bookstore before that. Like, she had helped me order this book that some customer told me about, and it was about Africa. Reminds me. Okay, really quick. Then we'll get to Ursula, and then you know what? We'll finish the Ursula because it's 2 hours and 14 minutes here. We'll finish the Ursula story, obviously, on her page. But when I was 4 years old, in 4th grade. My class, I was in a class of, it was combined, so there was maybe 15, 20 kids in that class because it was 3rd and 4th. we were doing, it was a Christian school, and we were doing a study about David Livingstone in Stanley. I forget the rest of his name. And so me and two other girls from my church who were in my class, we decided we were going to do a play. Me, shy me. We're going to do this play about David Livingstone. And my friend Tara was David, and my friend Charity, which we weren't best friends, but she was the pastor's kid. People made fun of her and stuff, but I was nice to her. But she, it's not like my best friend. She's a little different. But, and she was the native African chief or whatever. And I was Stanley. And at that moment in time, God put into my heart a missionary work in Africa. Like, I felt like I should be a missionary, like in Africa, like David Livingstone. And from that point forward, I collected African things and watched all the African movies and bought books. Like, I went to the bookstore that Ursula worked at, and I got this book about pictures of Africa, and I was obsessed with African animals. Like, African elephants are my favorite. They're way cuter than Asian elephants. No offense to Asia, but they have little ears, and African elephants have big Dumbo ears, and Asian elephants have freckles, and African elephants don't. And remind me, if I can remember, the Steve Irwin. And so I felt like God wanted me to be a missionary to Africa. And I was scared, because, the story with David Livingstone, I was back, 1800s was when they're apartheid and all this stuff. It was scary. Native people were white people are trying to kill us, trying to take our land, and they're enslaving us. We don't like them. And so it was scary to me. But this story with David Livingstone was beautiful. His family died, and he was still this dedicated. He discovered Victoria Falls. I've always wanted to see Victoria Falls in Africa. I wanted to be where David Livingstone was, and I've always been drawn to Kenya. I always felt like God wanted me to be a missionary in Kenya, specifically Kenya. I would look at every other place, and there are lots of places I like, but it was specifically Kenya. I was scared. I was like, well, what if, you watch Gorillas in the Mist, and granted that's poaching and all, but the native people, of course, they were poachers that killed Diane Fossey. And I was like, I'm gonna be, and it was probably after this too. I probably watched that in 7th grade, but I had this dream. That I was gonna be macheted in Africa, as a missionary, just like Diane Fossey. And I was like, okay, God, I'm not saying no. I know you're not supposed to say no to God, but I'm just saying, wait, I'm scared. Wait. I'm scared. I'm not saying no, I'm just saying I'm scared. And then, my life changes and all of that stuff. And my grandpa would say, oh, God took the calling away from you if you haven't been a missionary yet. I don't believe that. But Dale has done mission work in Kenya and Uganda and other places. Ow. He uses my legs to jump from one chair to the other, and he digs his nails in. And so we have friends, Pastor, John Okinda and his wife Pamela. Peter and Sarah are also pastors over there, and he has several friends from several missionary trips. But I specifically felt like my destiny somehow intersected with John and Pamela. and we met them. They have an orphanage in Kenya called Okinda's Kids. And I gave money to them, you know, and I won a raffle at work, and it was like, you have to give, you know, half of it to charity and half of it, you can keep half. And so I chose to give my half to Okinda's Kids. With the church. And I wanted it to go to orphan kids. You know, my daughter and I knit scarves to give, you know, money to Africa. You know, at the Christmas walk, we, you know, sold money and stuff. But we met them, and he was praying for us, and I started crying because I could feel God in that moment. And songs will make me cry, like God Rest You Merry Gentlemen, like certain songs. Aaron Schuss does the song My Savior, My God. That makes me cry. It's just, I can feel God, and I can feel him get close to me. It's like a bonding moment kind of a thing, but I felt that moment and I couldn't not cry, you know, like just feeling like, okay, like, so there's that. And then we went to see my grandparents. They were living with my aunt and uncle. My mom really wanted to see them or whatever, and we went to see them. My mom makes everything dramatic about my aunt and everything. And another supernatural kind of thing is they looked, it's almost like I could see that they weren't long for the world. They looked like they were like they were in paper shells. And I knew it was supernatural. I knew it was something that I was seeing and nobody else was seeing it. Like they were seeing, like my daughter was seeing my grandparents, and they looked like old people. They're in their late 80s or whatever. I think late 80s. And, but I could feel it. I could see it. I could see like their skin was very thin, and not just like old people have thin skin. I mean, it looked like paper thin, like to me, and I knew it was something I was seeing in the spirit. I knew it was God letting me know, and I knew at that moment that was the last time I was gonna see them. And my grandma, she's starting to get Alzheimer's, and so she would like life reset every 5 minutes for her. So she would ask you a question. She would Dale and I had gotten together, and he'd driven us, and she's like, oh, who's this young man? And say Dale, and he would say it, and she would 5 minutes later, so who's this young guy? And she would laugh, and she would giggle, and she would be surprised. I think I know you. Like every 5 minutes, like it would repeat, kind of like Groundhog Day. And she's super cute, and it's cute like how every time it would be this genuine, but she was always happy in all of her moments. Except when my grandpa died, that was rough. But I knew that was gonna be the last time that I saw them, and that they were gonna know me, and I knew that was the last time. I cried, and they looked at me, and I'll never forget the way that they looked at me. Like this compassion. I don't know if they knew why I was crying, if they knew what I knew, if we all just kind of knew it, like if it was a moment that God gave us. I keep thinking, I hear Dale. That's another supernatural moment. And then, the moments happen after with Ursula, but really quick, Aaron alienated me from people, and people didn't want to be with me, and I would invite them to things and no one would come, or one person here, one person there. Like people just didn't really want to come. Either they knew he was vile, or, they just, I don't know. And so I had a Tupperware party. Ursula was the only person that showed up. I'll never forget that. She bought stuff and, she was just supportive and she was sweet. And we were the first 12 people hired. Like, she was in my group of 12. You can tell I'm getting uncomfortable and I'm fiddling, sorry. Another narcissistic abuse thing is you over apologize. Like, you're constantly apologizing. That person, like, I had a kid in massage school when I'd say, oh, I'm sorry. I'm like, making you move, or I'm asking you to, inconvenience yourself to get up so I can get by you. And I'm sorry. And he's like, sorry is for sorry people. And he was just really rude about it. And I was like, at least I'm saying I'm sorry. I'm sorry that I put you out, like, in my head. I obviously didn't say this to him because I don't like confrontation. But why are you mean to someone because they say that they're, so what if I over apologize? At least I'm apologizing. At least I'm not a keyboard warrior who's just rude and obnoxious and mean and cruel just to be rude, obnoxious, mean, and cruel. Stop. Stop yelling at people like me who over apologize, who just stop. At least we're nice. So what if I don't believe the same as you? So what if I do something different? It's okay, because you know what? I make the world a better place. I'm a nice person. I try to help people. I try to help animals. I'm not out there just being mean to people. Leave me alone. I'm gonna go, I'm not the person that you need to pick on to bully. I really hate that. Because I'm an easy target, people think it's okay to be mean and, and they go off on me and stuff. And I'm just like, stop. In the grand scheme and realm of things, does it matter? It really kind of doesn't. You don't have to drink apple juice because I drink apple juice. And I think apple juice is better than orange juice. Well, actually, apple juice, if you do research, has arsenic in it. So I don't think it's that good, and I kind of don't. But my daughter wants to drink it, so I let her, because she doesn't like orange juice, so she drinks apple juice. And I'm like, just so you know, there's arsenic in there. But, I mean, it's trace amounts, kind of like, whatever. Don't get me going on fluoride and all that stuff. But you want apple juice, you have apple juice. I respect that you like apple juice. I think it's deadly, but I mean, I'll have apple cider, but that's not packaged junk that you buy in the store that they put poison into. Anyways, what I'm saying is, my son feels like he's agnostic, like he doesn't believe in God, and he doesn't, and you know what, as I pray for him all the time. When he was a baby, I dedicated him to God, and I kind of hold God to that, but I'm not going to force him to believe how I believe. I say, don't do this. I'm good. You can do a lot of things. You're Luciferian. Can't. Sorry. Not going to happen. That's where I draw the line. Other than that, okay. You don't have to believe in God. It's okay. I can tell you why. I've had personal experiences. You can think I'm crazy or just dreaming or hallucinating or just whatever. So I don't tell it because I don't want people taking it away from me, because it was a genuine, I have the scar in my leg. I know that it happened. I remember it with such vivid detail. But, I'm not going to tell you you're wrong. It's your path. You have to walk it. I'm not going to walk. I can't walk it for you. I tried. And I remember there's one thing that Ursula told me is it's their path. They have to walk it. You can show them things, but you can't force them to do it. And I'm learning that now. I can show people stuff, but if they're like, whatever. I mean, I'm into a lot of conspiracy theories. A lot of people are like, oh Lord. I mean, I have my opinion about who killed JFK, but, you know, I'm into conspiracy theories. But I respect that people don't feel that way, that they haven't come to the same conclusions that I've come to, and that's okay. I'm still gonna love you, and I'm still gonna... So, God, I don't know, I feel like he made me a little different. Like, I see souls. So, like, when I look at someone, sure, I see the superficial things, but I also see the soul, and it's the soul that I care about, and it's the soul that I don't know. Like, when I look at animals, like, I don't just see a cat. Like, I mean, I see a cat, but I also see, when I look into their eyes, like, I can see their soul. And it's their soul that I try to connect with. And maybe that's why I open my door and they all want to come in, or they're like, I'm a beacon to them. I don't know. And then they come find me. I don't know if maybe they're angels that God sends my way. But I literally, when I'm looking at them, I think they know that I'm looking at their soul. Like, I'm looking at their being. Not, oh, it's a tabby, or it's a Maine Coon or whatever. I'm not looking at them like, oh, cute kitty. It's just an animal. It doesn't have a soul or feelings. No. Like, my grandpa and I had this debate. Like, he doesn't believe animals go to heaven. I think he's completely wrong. And my grandma Ruby, when she passed away, she let me know that, and I can tell you why. Because there's a comment, and it was from a picture, and it had my grandma Ruby. I screenshot it. I have over 200,000 pictures, so it would take me a while to find it, but I screenshot it. I can go based on when she died. It wasn't long after she died, and I remember telling her about it before she died. And it said that something about animals going to heaven, and no one on my birth father's side of the family had that picture, or has had that profile picture. It was her. Like, I know that she was talking to me. Another one of those supernatural things. Again, after Ursula, but Steve Irwin, really quick. When it was dark, when it was so dark, and you're like, the bottom has fallen out, you're laying in this pit, and you barely see a pinhole of light. The only light, the only joy that I had was watching I still cry. I've never met him. He doesn't know the power, he doesn't know how he touched me and my soul. Just, that's the connections that I'm talking about that you may not ever know. I watched The Crocodile Hunter, and I watched Steve Irwin. And he took me on his journey. Like, I love animals. It's probably why my daughter needed to be a zoologist. He took me on his journeys with him. I'm scared to travel. Like, I'm terrified of, I've never flown. I'm sure I'd be fine if I did it once, but I'm just terrified. So I don't travel. But it's like he took me to the places with him. And I felt so immersed. And he had one of the most genuine, kind, and compassionate, just pure souls that I've ever seen. Lucky Terry found it before I did. He had one of the most beautiful souls I've ever seen. Just a genuine, amazing person. Oh, I'm only at 10% battery. I'm gonna end it, then we'll go to Ursula's story in another video another day. That was the bright light in my life. Like, I mean, yeah, my kids were cute and everything, but it's like he took me on an adventure and I got to escape for a time, and I was so happy. My soul lit up, like inside, like the joy that I felt from watching him. And I'll never forget when he died. Aaron came home from working and he drove home just to tell me this. He took such joy. He's like, Steve Irwin died. I'm like, what are you talking about? Like, I thought it was a joke because he tended to do that. And he's like, no, I'm serious. It's like on the news and everything. Like, he died. It was on the radio or whatever. I was like, and I had to turn on the television. I'm not joking you. The evil grin of satisfaction that he got, I was mortified. Like, I watched CNN, Larry King Live. Like, I watched it for days because I wasn't working at the time. Days. Like, I literally watched. Like, that was one of the things I wanted to do before I died. And I was angry at God because I thought that he took that away from me. I was like, you knew. That was the number one thing that I wanted to do, and you took that away from me. You know, and then that was my whole time of being angry with God too. And later, I came to realize that it's not like God said no, I was never going to get to see him. I feel like when it's my turn and I get there and I get to go to heaven, he'll be one of the first people there going, hey mate, you know, crikey, let's go look at the animals. Like, the animals in heaven needed someone to take care of them, and so he picked Steve Irwin. He knew his kids were going to be okay, and they were going to take it on, and they were ready, and it was going to be, and if you watch those kids now, it's like, wow, you know. And yeah, you know, Terry will never be the same, and you know, you can see it. You can see the grieving. You know, she lost her soulmate. I still can't bring myself to read her book, Steve and Me. I can't, like, you see? It's been how long since he died? 2006. Almost 20 years. Like, what is that? Like 16? It's been a long time. I hate math. I'm telling you, my brain is like, I don't know. It's been a long time. And, you know, you can see that it's changed her a little bit. Or maybe you can't. I can. I can see. Yeah. And it's like God said, it's not like I'm saying no, it's just not right now. So I believe when I get to heaven, I'll get to see Steve Irwin and we'll get to go on an adventure. I'll get to meet him. Am I going to hang out with him in heaven and stuff? No, like, I don't see heaven that way, you guys. So in those moments, God and I felt like I was doing all the talking, but I feel like I was saying to God, I was frustrated. Like, Adam and Eve ruined everything. Again, oh my gosh, don't get me going on that book. There's more to that book that you need to read it for. Like, they ruined it. Like, I wanted that. Like, that was perfect. That was a perfect plan. You, me, animals, like in this beautiful garden forever and ever, and we just spend time together. Like, when I die, you guys, I don't want a church service. I don't want people. People always let me down. People always hurt my feelings. People always disappoint me. Animals, not so much. They do sometimes, but not so much. Like, for the most part. I don't want, and no, I mean, I want Ursula there too, but I need probably 85% of my time to be me and God. And I mean me and God. I mean, God's capable. He's omnipotent. If you don't believe in God, this all sounds like, what? Like, I understand. I do. he can be with all of us at the same time, and we can all feel like we have this individual moment. Happens multiple times on the planet constantly today. So I know that I can have 85% of my heaven be me and God. Maybe Dale wants to have a church service, and I'm not a good singer, and I don't really feel like singing like a giant church service for the rest of eternity. Like, that's not my idea of heaven. Like, when I die, that's not what I want. So the movie with Robin Williams, What Dreams May Come, is kind of, I really feel that. Because I want to see Ursula, and she always wanted us to have this place together that we shared, and they had a house and we had a house on the same piece of land. I wanted that, but I just want God. He's been there from day one to today, and he's been there with me the worst moments of my life, and I know it's him, and I feel him. And another reason why, and you might be like, oh, I wish I had don't wish for that, because when you've had that experience, it's just like, it pales in comparison, and you're just kind of like, well, that's fine, I'm not living in the moment. I'm like, I want that. I want God. I want that. I remember that, and I remember how that felt, and I want that. And so you're done here. You don't want to keep going, but you have to. Like, your purpose is, and maybe my purpose is to tell you, and maybe my purpose is, this is going to minister to just one of you out there, and it's going to change your life. I don't think that's possible, but I think y'all are just going to think I'm nuts, and I'm going to lose subscribers. It's fine. My Scentsy, I'm going to lose customers. It's not going that great anyway. But, I mean, maybe that's the point. Maybe Scentsy was just the vehicle to get me to this moment in time for me to share my story, to minister to one of you. Maybe that's it. Maybe that's all it was for. Maybe Scentsy wasn't meant to be much of anything. Maybe I'll never be anything in Scentsy. I'll never be a director, superstar director, whatever. Maybe people weren't, it was just to get me to this moment. And maybe 99% of you are like, okay, I don't know what she's smoking, but I need some of that. I assure you, I'm not smoking anything. And it's okay. I understand how it looks. I do. But I'd rather believe there's a God and there actually be a God than, and I told my son this, but it doesn't convince him, then what if you're right? Then I'm out nothing. If there is no God, I'm out nothing. I've seen him, so I know he's there, but let's just say you're right. And we die and there's nothing. Okay, I'm out nothing. If I'm right and there is a God, you're out a lot. Because what's the alternative? I hope it plants a seed, and I hope he thinks about it. That's it's up to God to draw him. And I have this this person on YouTube that I watch, and God has really put them on my heart, like, bad. Like, I watch a lot of their stuff, and I just feel like the mission that they're on currently. They've done some stuff that I would never, like, I'm just like, whoa, that's scary. But people have to walk their own path. So I don't always necessarily think, whoa, like, you should not be doing that. Like, I know that you should not be doing that. That's scary. All kinds of bad juju comes with that. Like, but where they are now, like, is powerful. And what they're doing is they're sharing truth. And I believe in them. And I believe that God put them where they are for a reason. And they're meant to share that because they have this huge channel. And I just feel this burden, like, I have to pray for this person. And right now they don't believe in God like I do. They believe in a different deity. And I worry for them about that, because if it's not God, it's demonic. And they don't believe that. I believe that. Like, any God other than God is bad. Whether doesn't matter. But I just feel like this urgency, like this desperation, like I need to pray for this kid. Like, he's doing God's work without even knowing what he's doing. And I pray for his protection. And if nothing else, that truth and that it needs to get out and it needs to be shared. It's imperative to the eternal lives of people that they understand, that they wake up, that they get it. Not enough people are awake yet. I know that sounds, I'm gonna lose people just saying that. I guess it's not about that anymore. It's important, and we're running out of time, and I'm praying for this kid. I'm praying hard. I believe in him so much, and I'm just praying hard for him, because he's a good soul. I can see his soul, and it's good, and it's pure, and he's gonna I think he's gonna be fine. I think God will take care of him, and when the time is right, and I may never see it, but maybe I'm here because I need to pray for him, because maybe he needs that one person out there who just is burdened with praying for his safety, and his well-being with the things that he shares. And God connected us through one of his videos for a reason, and just laid him upon my heart. And I'm telling you, like, I wake up sometimes, I think about him, and I pray about him. Like, I just feel like I've got to right now. Like, it's important, and he needs it. And if people don't, like, I don't know. And maybe that's my purpose. Maybe it isn't Africa. It was just a test to see if I was really willing, if I was a vessel that a willing vessel, and I am. Like, so you guys, there's more to my story. You don't need all the darkness. And I hear a car, and I don't know if that's John or if it's Dale. It's probably Dale. It's been about 3 hours, so I'm gonna go, you guys. I'll finish with Ursula's story another time. I might upload this just to get it up, and then make it private until I decide to do something different with it. But yeah, just, you don't have to believe in God. Like, I still love you. I still accept you. It doesn't matter to me. It's your journey. It's your eternity, not mine. But I just feel like I have to share this. Because maybe someone needs to know God loves you. And there are tons of Bible stories where, like David, like the adultery, and David and Bathsheba had her husband killed so he could have her. And look how God uses them. Like, Noah wasn't perfect, but it's your heart that matters. Yeah, we could talk about my theories about Judas too, but I don't have time for that. But yeah, guys. So thanks for tuning in and listening, and sorry that it's raw in places, a little too graphic. Sorry if it's a trigger. Just know that you're not alone. I am who I am today because God loves me. He does want me to be with him, unlike Satan said. He didn't want me to believe what he said, that even God doesn't want me. He showed up to prove to me that was wrong, and that crossed a line, and it's not true. And I'm here because I have a purpose, whatever it may be. And yeah, so hope it was helpful, and we'll see you soon.